Folks. Thank goodness. Hallelujah. Todd Zola and I are going to be helping you prep for the 2022 season, talking some labor, talking TGFBI, along with the latest news here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by WinBet. Clay Link here with Todd Zola of RotoWire and Masters Ball. Todd, oh man, I could collapse into your arms right now if I were in the Northeast. It's a great day. It was a great day for baseball yesterday, and I'm pretty relieved, man. How are you doing?
Oh man, doing well, doing very, very well. Yeah,
Glad
it was kind of on eggshells the past couple months for various and sundry reasons. Baseball is back, not losing any games, no ghost runners, 7 innings double headers are a thing of the past. Don't have to worry about the shift until next year. Life is good.
Yeah, it really is. And I just, I realized baseball was a big part of my life, but you don't know what you have till it's gone. And, for some of us who, maybe don't have a lot of family close or a ton of close friends, baseball is hugely important. So I'm just glad. And for all the people who depend on, income, and I'm in that boat too. I'm lucky to have this job, but creeps into your head, like, lasts longer. Are they going to can my ass? Like, I don't know. Just a lot of people out there who feeling a little bit more settled and reassured today.
I could see Clay Link doing hockey. I could see it.
Hey, maybe if I have to, I'll do what's necessary for the betterment of the company.
We're all good now.
Yeah, man. But we're still waiting on that big frenzy. I know there were some tweets yesterday saying, well, if they certify the new CBA, we could get some signings as soon as last night. There weren't so many last night, or really none, but we did get a couple today. Nobody too notable, but Drew Verhaeghe and Martin Perez so far today.
Yeah, well, I think it's notable that unless you're the Texas Rangers, your team will not be getting Martin Perez, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, like that's good news for the other 29 fan bases.
There we go. Right.
Not so much for the Rangers.
And he's a Red Sox last year. Nothing. I mean,
he was actually not that bad as an innings eater, like in real life.
And from all accounts, he was a good person, all that kind of stuff. I don't mean to be a jerk about it, but from a fantasy perspective, he's not now on my list because he's with the Rangers. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, real life capable innings eater, but not somebody in a fantasy game you really think about. Martin Perez. And yeah, the Rangers fan base, they don't have anything to complain about after the ownership spent $500 million earlier in the offseason.
And they may not be done.
Yeah, I don't think they're done. Right before we started this show, Todd, we got a little bit of Dodgers news. Fabian Ardaya, Dodgers beat writer for The Athletic, noted that Dave Roberts said Max Muncie will be ready for opening day. We don't know exactly what capacity he will be available, but that's pretty big. I expect just that update alone to increase Muncie's cost by quite a bit.
Right, especially considering how low he had been going. Kind of showed 2020. Well, I think he hit for power in 2020, but the average just cratered. And last year he kind of became the old Max Muncie again. But we had
thankfully not the old Max Muncie.
No, exactly.
Quad A type.
Right, but went third round in the Mixed Tout Wars draft earlier this week. That just speaks towards his on-base capability.
Yeah, that's an on-base league. But those who got him in average leagues in the 8th, 9th, 10th, probably doing jumps for joy right now because with that UCL, he mentioned on a radio interview that it was torn early in the offseason. You feel a lot better about him being ready right from the jump.
I mean, there's still risk too. I mean, there's injury risk, but I think it's not, obviously not nearly as much as it was a pitcher or maybe a shoulder injury to a batter. So interested to see in the limited spring that we actually get how he's driving the ball.
Yeah, spring's going to be weird. we've heard that, a guy like Ranger Suarez might not be ready due to a visa issue. And I just think we're going to get a lot of those in the weeks ahead. Like guys because of a shortened spring, just getting hurt as they attempt to ramp up. And guys just, even if they don't really run into an injury, just aren't quite ready for the start of the season.
And even the Cody Hoyer, I know it's been talked about on different pods in the channel and then the radio, but that kind of came out of nowhere. So I don't know that we'll have a TGS coming out of nowhere, but there's going to be information that we're not aware of that we're going to soon be aware of.
That will probably shift things dramatically in the fantasy landscape. Another Dodgers note, this also from Fabian Ardaya of The Athletic. Dave Roberts said he doesn't want to close the door completely on Trevor Bauer being in camp, but immediately followed up saying he doesn't know where MLB stands in its investigation right now. So, yeah, I know MLB, they put him on administrative leave. They just kept extending that on and on, but there is still the very real possibility he faces a suspension.
Yeah, it almost sounds like Roberts is hoping MLB does the dirty work for him. I don't want to, make statements like that could just be completely untrue. But I think he said the right thing. At this point you cannot slam the door. You just can't. You have because there's still things going on. But he also didn't say
he can't like that.
Right. And he also didn't say that if MLB clears him, we're welcoming him in. Welcoming him. So I think he said just the right thing. And we play high stakes. We play industry leagues. We play for fun. All sorts of different things. Everybody has to make up their own choice and make up their own decision. I mean, if I'm in a money league and he's in the pool, I'm not giving away my money in someone who, you have to do what you have to do. If you're in a home league and it's fun, fine. I won't draft him in my home league. I know at this point, I don't know. I don't know because we don't really know what went on. So
yeah, we have no idea. And I think you're right that it boils down to just you specifically, what you want to do. If you look at him and say, oh, he's such a great value, but I don't want him on my team, fine. You can win your league without that great value.
Yeah, projected him. I think Jeff did too. Conservative number of innings because of the lack of playing time or recent year, the lack of innings over the past couple of years. Uncertainty about the ball and the spin. I think there's some, right now we should, if all things being equal, not things being, that's not the right, in an alternate universe, we're talking about Bauer's spin rate. Well, but there's other things to talk about within now. So,
yeah, he saw that huge increase in spin in 2020, won a Cy Young. I do kind of wonder if maybe, I don't know, it's all speculation, but I just don't know if the Dodgers players will really want him back in the clubhouse. Clubhouse chemistry is kind of an underrated aspect of the game. Maintaining that's really, really important. Your players got to have a bit of a chemistry, and he could throw that off.
And I think we could see a bit of a tell by what the Dodgers do. If they go out and get two pitchers, I think that says we need to replace Kershaw. Maybe Kershaw replaces Kershaw. If they go out and get two pitchers, I think that's planning on not having Bauer.
Good point. Well, that's all the news I've seen so far today. I expect a ton more coming in. Prepare for the avalanche. Hopefully it's fun. I think that will be pretty fun, just the frenzy whenever it actually does get underway in earnest. Todd, you were part of AL Labor, and I was part of it for a few years and loved my time in that. I turned things over to James this year, and I think he has a good chance to take and run with it. Looking forward to seeing what he does. But
I think he could come in second, yeah.
Hey, that's as high as I reach. So if you got that, that'd be pretty good. Ian Kahn, the defending champ, he just wiped the floor with all of us last year. I think set the Labor roto points record, which is pretty crazy.
Yep.
And just blew the field away by like 30 roto points. So you guys are all aiming for him. Did you have a strategy in mind? Did you take a different approach? What was your mindset going into the Labor auction draft?
I think we talked a little about it last week where I've been unhappy with my results in auctions lately. And I wanted to be more aggressive or more open to spending early. And I think I even mentioned that I was going to have, looking or be willing to spend $100 on my first three players. Didn't do that, but I did spend 90. I did hit 90 on my first three players. So, and I waited for that third, who happened to be Xander Bogaerts, if he had been called out earlier, it looked like I was back to Zola waiting again, but it just, I knew I wanted to make a play for Bogarts, and it took him a long time for him to get nominated. I think Jose Alvarez and Cedric Mullins were the first two of that 3 for 100. And like I said, I ended up spending 90. So from that angle, I think I was a little more aggressive. And it got to a point where, and I actually jumped on Jeff's live stream with Greg Ambrosius when Jeff Erickson was doing his beat Jeff Erickson draft, or I think it was that draft. Yeah, one of his. Yeah, because I was in the middle of an auction, but I was down. I did not have the hammer. I was the one waiting. I couldn't bid on anybody because everybody being sold was still for above my max bid. So I'm never in that scenario. It was weird. Fast forward an hour, and I had the hammer because that's just the way things worked out. But I had gotten to a point where I kind of went on a spending frenzy, and I don't remember what it was. I don't know, whatever, 27 for 7 or something like that. I don't know. I didn't have the ability to, but I had a lot of roster spots filled, wait for the end game. But that was new. That was that was new. That was new for my way of playing. So labor, if people don't realize, it's got a couple of quirky rules, especially this year, that at the time, fortunately, Tout Wars doesn't have to worry about it. This is me knocking on wood. With the free agents, Steve Gardner, head poobah of labor, took out the top 12 free agents from both leagues, AL and NL, and you couldn't bid on them. The other ones you can, 13 and on. And there's going to be a separate fab bidding period using your regular fab, your standard $100 fab, once this free agent signed before the season. So I'm sure in future pods, and I'm sure across the channel and across the site, we'll be talking about this because we're all involved in one way or another, having to strategize how we're going to handle it. Fred Zinke, we'll talk about, I'm sure, with Jeff and et cetera. I'm in it, and James. You need to plan your roster so that you don't want to be replacing a $10 guy, right? You wanted to, if you're into spending the fab, you want to have a couple $1 spots that you can just drop without blinking an eye. So there was some strategic planning as far as that goes, whether you even wanted to get on this sort of thing. Even the free agents that are out of the top 12, if they go to the other league, you lose the spot, but you do get half your fab back. And there were still some kind of decent, that $8, $9, $10 players that were involved in that. So that's just kind of going into the background planning. And I did leave myself some spots, and I did have infield flexibility where I can take any infielder and make it work, dropping, I think, Harold Castro, if I'm not mistaken, and with LeMahieu and some other, I think your buddy Ty France, who we've talked about. You're kind of curious about why people are spending so much on Ty France. I wanted the flexibility.
Those plate appearances too, AL only are pretty damn valuable.
Yeah, in our discussion, I think he was more of a mixed conundrum, if you will. So
I don't see the category juice, but he did reach 650 PA and had a great average. So,
and I think, if I recall, I kind of wanted the batting average. I don't remember exactly why at this point. Looking at my roster, I don't know why, because I'm okay with batting average. Maybe it was Jimenez. I had a couple of guys that I in general think I'm pretty strong in batting average. But anyway, so you have any happy to address any questions or tell me what I did wrong on this labor team. Now we can. What's the link? People can get it.
It is rtsports.com/LABR-AL-auction.
Cool.
So check that out. But we will, pick this team apart, and I'll bounce some questions off you. But we have to interrupt this labor discussion to bring you some breaking news. And I was hoping we would get some on the show today. Hoping we would get some, the avalanche started here. And we have Jeff Passan, got his Twitter account back, by the way. Good to see. Tweeted 12 minutes ago, left-hander Carlos Rodon, better pronunciation, but he's in agreement with the San Francisco Giants on a 2-year, $44 million contract that includes an opt-out after the first season. And as our buddy says, Derek Van Riper says on Twitter, Carlos Rodon bargain season is over. So I do think, like, with that landing spot, we're going to see him surge and no more room for a discount on Rodon.
Any hesitancy because the White Sox did not bring him back is now thrown out the window with a 2-year, $44 million deal.
Yeah. With the team that you trust in the Giants.
I was going to say, there are not too many teams that I would trust more. Look what they did with Wood and DeSclafani and Gosman. Wow, that's a nice that's interesting. So I'm trying
that's one where he'll probably, whether he opts out or he plays the 2 years there, he'll probably sign like $100 million deal in a couple of years. If he stays healthy and they work their magic.
Right.
But they've been able to turn some careers around, and he did that himself with the White Sox, and maybe it's kind of appealing to authority, but I do trust the Giants to get a lot out of him. So again, Carlos Rodon to the Giants, 2 years, $44 million. Maybe that's probably not the one that like breaks the levees, but good to finally get our first big name.
Are you in? I'm not in at that price. I'm not in at wherever the price is going to be. I'm not in.
I think at an increased cost, assuming it does jump, I'm probably out.
Yeah, I just don't trust the health. And I mean, the way I draft pitching, you can make two arguments. Well, you can say I'm doing it wrong, but as far as intrinsic to the way I draft it, you can say because I wait on pitching, I need to take chances to make up for lost ground. The other thing you can say is because you're waiting, you can't afford to make a mistake. Mm-hmm. Now, those two things don't go together. They're like the opposite end of the spectrum. But I'm still safe early, and I'm still taking chances later. People will look and say, yeah, you need a Rodon to make up for it because he's a potential ace. I don't know. But anyway, that's an interesting place to land.
Our buddy Nick Pollock from Pitcherless tweeted, "Well, Tyler Beatty, we had a good run."
I
respect that because he came on our MLB show and he was like his deep sleeper, which I respected because nobody had Tyler Beatty as a sleeper, but it does look like maybe he's forced out now of that Giants rotation.
Yeah, but as we mentioned Alex Wood, we mentioned with Rodon himself, as a swing man.
They'll still need him to take the ball.
There'll be still chances for him to swing. Alex Cobb is actually who? Yeah, okay. We already have Rodon in the 2 spot. Yeah, I mean Alex Cobb is not a bastion of health either.
Not at all. So plus most teams need 8 starters to at least 8. To get
There's going to be a few doubleheaders this year, right?
Yeah, they're going to have to make up. What did they add? Like 3 days of the season, and the rest are going to make up.
Right. All right. So if we're starting a week late, so that means what? Around 3 to 4 doubleheaders, depending upon how things flesh out. But I mean the season is still compressed, so there'll be rainouts, etc. You're probably less of a chance to make things up. So there'll be some more doubleheaders. Yeah,
but not the 7-inning variety, right?
The 7-inning variety. Yeah.
So we will. I'm sorry.
I was saying that actually speaks towards, we kind of forgotten. I mean, had MLB not interfered, we would have still canceled Tout Wars because of the situation. But the scenario is now such that I think people are feeling safer to go to games and safer to do things in most areas.
I think that's generally been the case. Like the mask mandate here in Madison was lifted. Just recently.
Yeah, exactly.
That seems to be the case.
But Tout Wars still made the right move, and NFBC still made the right move. But as it turns out, that at least we're getting but it's kind of, I'm sure people are still paying attention, obviously. But it's nice to know that opening day will be well attended. And then they still get Jackie Robinson Day. People are talking about doubling them up, maybe, but don't you want to get 2 big gates, don't you? You want to get the opening day gate, and then you get the Jackie Robinson date. So I think it's nice that not only that that deserves a standalone. That doesn't deserve Jackie Robinson Day. Doesn't deserve to be shared with opening day.
That shouldn't get lumped in with something else. I'm with you totally. That should be its own day, with nothing else distracting from it. Well, we'll bring you any other news updates that come across the wire while we're on. I have Twitter open. Hope you keep an eye on that in the background. But we'll move on now back to labor. And you mentioned that you didn't quite go on the spending spree you thought you may go on, but you did spend quite a bit on offense early. You got Yordan Alvarez at 34. He's a guy you're all over, Todd. It seems like every draft I see, you're getting Yordan Alvarez on your team.
Yep.
Again, 34 in AL labor. That seems very much reasonable. Do you have any lingering concerns about the knee, or have those kind of faded in the background?
Both knees. No, I mean, the fact that he played, was it 40 games in the outfield last year? I wish you would
got enough mobility to do that.
I wish that we had the look on my face when I was talking. You mentioned Derek earlier, DVR, when we were drafting together, and he pointed out that Alvarez was outfield eligible, and I thought it was DH only. I think that was the second happiest face I've made in the past year. Yesterday being the happiest. Yeah. But I'm not as worried. Yeah, I mean, I have some concern, but I think I'm the expression like you use, and I think it's becoming buying the dip. I think there's a bit of a dip there. If everybody was confident to be healthy, because this guy's just a monster. And I mean, you mentioned good price. I air quote overpriced. Well, I can actually air quote overpriced, but I don't. Numbers are numbers. I believe in the player, so just because I had 29 written next to his name, that doesn't mean I'm stopping at 29.
Yeah, I mean, he's a monster. WRC plus is a stat we cite from time to time, and of course, 100 is league average. In 233 games, Yordan Alvarez is a 153 WRC plus. So by that particular measure, that stat, he's been 53% better than the average major league hitter in his brief time. And I do think that the knee issues at such a young age, he's such a big guy, like, a 24-year-old with bad knees already. Yeah. It's just easy to assume that his body's going to fall apart. But you're right, the last year he bucked that trend after only playing in 2 games in 2020.
I had him surgically repaired, and there's still a lot of games at DH. So he may share a little bit more with Michael Brantley this year, but I think we'll see. Yeah,
still a risk, but I do think maybe you see that guy and you say, "Oh, bad knees." People just maybe have shied away from him a little too much.
Maybe.
So, Ty France, you said kind of facetiously that he's my buddy, and he has kind of been a blind spot for me. But 21 seems pretty reasonable in AL. Gio Urshela for 10, I thought was pretty nice. And Cedric Mullins was one of your other big ticket items on offense. And Ian did not go back to that well after Cedric helped win him the league. Quite a bit more of an investment in Cedric Mullins this year, but you were willing to pay the increased cost.
Yep, wanted the steals, and that was, I think that was one of those. We talk about there's no such thing. Well, not so much no such thing, but price enforcement. If you're willing, if I were to say to you, I was price enforcing on Mullins, but I was okay with him at 29. Well, that's not price enforcing. But it was kind of let's see where he's going to stop. And what I figured was, I think I did him a jump bid. It was 22, 23. And I jumped it to 29 because I believe in the jump bid A and to the 9s B, because there's some hurdle. People in this league shouldn't be on that hurdle, and they're generally not. But there's a hurdle going from 19 to 20, 29 to 30.
A mental hurdle, yeah. I think
so I did 26 up to 29. Also saying if someone does a +1, off at 26, then hey, they get up at 30. But it stopped, and I was not unhappy with it. I mean, and the thing about that bid is, you're always not going to repeat 30-30. You don't need to repeat 30-30, right? He needs 20-25 at that price to be worth it. So it's all good.
Yeah, I think that you're right. You're not, if you're paying for last year's stats, quote unquote, paying for last year, you'd be a $40 player.
And I think if anything, the goofy left field helps him. Off-field gap shots.
Interesting. Well, I've put this off for too long. We got to take a quick break to take care of some business. We'll be back after these messages here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. And now we are back on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by WinBet. Appreciate you bearing with me on that. And now we're back to some labor discussion. We also talk about some of your picks in TGFBI. I know your league was dragging, but it's in the books now, TGFBI, for you, Todd?
That it is. Nice. We were really dragging, but we did pick up at the end. To the credit of the guys, and I think I can say guys. I don't think there's a gal in this league. But I should get used to, get in the habit of not pigeonholing it. To my fellow drafters, we picked it up to the end, so.
Yeah, credit to them. I mean, you don't want to drag your feet too much. I think maybe the interest sagged a little bit with the either, will they, won't they, and then it's good to see the baseball interest picking back.
At one point, I had one pick in 46 hours. That was a bit. That was kind of bad.
Yeah, that's a drag when that happens. I can't do too many slow drafts because I don't want to be that guy who's sitting on the computer like mad at the person who's not in the room, and it's just I don't have the patience
to be honest.
Too many slow drafts.
That's the main reason I didn't do the first TGFBI. Was I didn't want to be that guy because we were traveling at the time, and I wasn't as confident being able to draft off my phone and fan tracks, and there were a few things going on that I didn't want to be the jerk holding things up on a plane or whatever. So that's why I respectfully declined the invite. But anyway.
And that opened the door for me to win. So
there we go.
Thank you for not participating the first year. On the pitching side, Sean Manaea was your highest priced player, $17. So you have Shane Baz and Sean Manaea heading things up. Do you think that's good enough? Are you going to be looking to grab one of those free agents? Maybe grab somebody off the waiver wire early? How do you feel about the top of your staff?
So 9 of the 12 special free agents were hitters. And if Rodon was one, he's now in the other league, so he's off the board.
So not many of those guys are going to be impact players.
But what I did do, and again, this goes back to the quirky labor rules, where if any player you purchase and or pick up via fab, okay, they have to be in your active lineup. The reserves, the 6 reserves that we drafted, can be freely jumped from active and reserve freely. If I have a pitcher who stinks, I can't bench him for a bad matchup. I have to drop him.
Yeah.
So one of the strategies that people do in this league is they draft a hole. They draft an injured player. They draft a pitcher who you want to be able to stream into that spot because you can stream with your reserves. So that's kind of what I did. Was I didn't invest in the top, hoping that I could manage my pitching using this reserve. Of course, you're not getting very good pitchers. So I did not invest in a stud arm, although I think Manaea could be a stud arm. So I may have and not paid a stud price. You mentioned Baz. I like Shane Baz. And then my friend Bailey Ober were my big and Rasmussen. I kind of like. I think that he's being a little bit underdrafted, or just because of is he a starter? Is he an opener? I don't care. He's going to get wins either way. But yeah, so my Matt Manning was a mistake in that I wanted to draft James Paxton for $1, and he was my injured guy. Maybe comes back, maybe he doesn't, whatever. And I have that spot. So Matt Manning went up for $1, and I wasn't looking at my list and my prices, and I just go, geez, Matt Manning's better than $1. So I went +1. Then I went back on my list, and I had like -4 or 5. Which you take it with a grain of salt. I mean, but especially at that range, because if you only use them at home, it's not so bad. But then I said, you know what? All it is that's my James Paxton, because I can drop Manning and not worry about it. I ended up spending $1 more, which is only $1, but I kind of mentioned I had the hammer in the end game. I could have used that $1. I don't remember who I could have gotten, but I could have used that buck on upgrading one of the spots. But anyway, and then my reserves. Listen, they're not great, but they're the last pitchers drafted in AL only. Chris Bubich, Taylor Hearn, Brad Keller, and Jordan Lyles are my streaming pitchers. I just need an opportunity. Texas is a good park. Kansas City may face Detroit. There will be time to use these guys. And I also picked up Aaron Loop and JT Chargois as my relievers that I can use in that spot. And I consider the free agent list an extension of my reserve.
That's, I think, a smart way to think about it. I thought it was interesting that you went all pitchers in reserves. Have you ever done that before?
No. And the reason for that is, again, with these special rules, not that special, but the just, kind of old school rules. I've had years where I haven't activated my hitter off a reserve for two reasons. The first being, there was a year where I just never had any, maybe not so much not had an injury, but I think it was Robbie Grossman is who it was a couple of years ago. And there was just never an opportunity I didn't need an outfielder or I didn't trust him. And there was someone better on the waiver wire when I needed an outfielder. And this is not last year, the year before. He actually had a pretty good year. I think it was the truncated, the pandemic season. Then there have been years where, as I just kind of suggested, every fab session and I need a replacement, he's better than the guy I have in reserve. So I figured if I'm never using my hitters, why draft them? So I didn't draft a hitter.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I mean, I would have to plug in some scrub type for one of the prospects I purchased in the auction. But I don't know if I ever, aside from that, put a reserve hitter in my lineup. They're just so bad at that point.
Yeah.
It's probably not even worth having them. But yeah, good job. And
we'll see.
And I think a lot's going to come down to Ober and Rasmussen.
A lot. And what I decided, because I'm kind of planning on one more hitter. And I know that overdoes it because my offense is pretty good, but we can trade in this league, et cetera. Harold Castro for $1 is expendable, and I can get any infielder, or I can put Oscar Mercado. So Jake Fraley. I've got an outfield spot which I can replace. So we'll have to see who signs, but I am considering this a work in progress.
I think that's how you should view it because, we set our category targets, or a lot of people do in your draft, but you got to realize you're not getting even 70% of your stats on draft day. You're going to be adding a lot.
Well, 75 to 90. In an only league, it's closer to the 90. Mm-hmm. But I mean, everybody, right? How many in their teams GFPI? 465. There are 465 people who hit their targets. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
If you don't hit, they just did. I guess we'll talk about it more. Well, we will talk about it more as it gets closer. But we kind of alluded to it. How much do you spend? Say Freddie Freeman signs with the Yankees. Mm-hmm. How much of your 100 do you spend? Because there's no trading of fab and labor, and there's no $0 bids. Yeah. You can get fab on a reclaim, but you want to, one of my guys is going to get hurt. Maybe they will. I don't know. But how much? You don't go 100 because then you don't make another move all year long. So what's that sweet spot? 90, 85. I mean, so I think that's it kind of. As much as it kind of is that how other leagues are going to do it, and labor should be a model league. That's cool. I mean, that's going to be fun for this league.
Yeah, and the circumstances, of course, this year are weird. I think it makes a lot of sense.
In Tout Wars, we were going to do the opposite. We were going to allow every single player to be bid on. So I'm going to have Freeman in the NL, and someone else is going to have him in the AL. And we're both going to get his stats. That's what we decided was both sides get his stats. So we were kind of selfishly, and actually, to be completely honest, we were going to have a meeting to see if we wanted to change it, or change the date, or we possibly could, if it was clear that the season was going to be delayed, we were going to have a discussion. Maybe we ended up doing nothing, but now we don't have to worry. Well, who knows who will be signed. It's this time next weekend. We don't know that everybody will be signed, but it'll be closer to normally when there's a handful of free agents unsigned. So we'll see.
I'm glad to see you brought Cole Calhoun back home at $3.
Not complaining.
Lourdes Gurriel at 21. Sorry.
I'm not complaining. Yeah,
Yeah,
$3 in an only league.
Darn nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jake Fraley for 2. I thought you did a good job. I do want to ask you though. I think like 36 hours after this draft was completed, this auction draft, Ian Kahn, he's a big trader. He did what he does, and he made a big trade with our own Jason Collette. I think it was Luke Voigt and Garrett Cole for Vladimir Guerrero and Jordan Montgomery. So absolute landscape shifting trade there. And just kind of wondering, what are your thoughts? Like general thoughts on it?
It was a parallel deal in that, the players all matched up perfectly, positions matched up perfectly. It was just each side was balancing what they considered to be some kind of weakness on their team, roster weakness on your team. Mm-hmm. So I thought
they came out of the auction feeling imbalanced.
Right. I thought it was a beautiful trade in that regard. So I thought it was kind of cool. And, one of those, you did not have to say to yourself, why didn't they wait? Why didn't they advertise it? It was just like the perfect trade. If you were to give this league to someone, say, as a piece, as a research project, discover the most ideal trade in this league, that may have been it. So
and it only took those guys like 36 hours to spot it.
Yeah, probably 36 phone calls too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and some really interesting pieces. Luke Voigt, if he gets back into regular playing time, could be a big asset. And I'm starting to smell some sleeper smell on Jordan Montgomery. I got the Spidey senses tingling.
I like him.
Yeah. You like Jordan Montgomery?
Yeah, and it might have to do with my park factor honk that Yankee Stadium is a pitcher's park. It gives up homers, but it's a pitcher's park. And Montgomery is now seeing the AL East enough that he can, at minimum, he can navigate it. Mm-hmm. He doesn't throw very hard, but he's not overmatched in the AL East. So
he's kind of like a junk baller, right? Like he does not throw the fastball as his primary pitch. What is it? The changeup that he throws as his primary?
I can check. I know I have a profile on him. I can check it out. But exactly. He works. I don't know if he works backwards, but
in a sense he does because he
features a changeup and curve with both with swinging strike weights north of 20%. So that's the thing with Montgomery that surprised me the most was he threw 31 and a third in 2017 and 2018, and I'm thinking of somebody else that came back and threw a ton of innings, even not having worked that much the year before.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that maybe that was right. Yeah, that's right. He had. I mean, basically didn't work at all in 2019 and 2020.
Yeah, Tommy John.
Yeah, but yet was able to pitch almost a full season last year. So anyway.
Yeah, and his walk rate ticked up a little bit, but still reasonable. And you expect maybe now 2 years post surgery, the command and control get a little sharper. And his changeup, he threw more than any other pitch. A lot of 3 pitches between 21 and 25% of the times, but the changeup was the most used last year, 24.4%.
Yep.
For Jordan Montgomery. So that's rare that you see a guy like that who's the primary pitch is the changeup. But good repertoire. He's willing to throw 5 pitches at least 13% of the time. So a nice variety. He can show opposing hitters and good team to power him. I do wonder about the long balls there in New York, but we had John Legeza on the show on XM, and he was making a strong case for Jordan Montgomery, and he's kind of swayed me. So I thought that was a nice, getting him along with Vlad, I thought was pretty nice for Ian Kahn.
Yeah.
I mentioned this was James's first year. Did you find yourself fighting James at all for any players, or were you guys kind of in your own little circles?
I don't know that I found myself fighting anybody because, like I said, I was at the beginning. If I wanted him, I got him with spending the money at the top. Then I was out in the middle, and then I had the hammer at the end. So I mean, I don't know that I actually was clashing big time with anybody. I've seen James build teams previously, so I had a little bit of a clue what he might do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, at this point, like I said, it's a work in progress for everybody, and I think, I mean, it's so hard to look at an AL or NL only and eyeball it. We're so in tune to 12 and 15 team mixed. It's on our own heads and what we consider good, what we consider bad. We can look at a board, bing, bang, bang, and make a judgment. I can't do that with a mixed league. It's just so much.
True. There's so many good players, and it's so jarring to go from an only league or even like a 15 team draft and hold to a standard 12 teamer. I feel like you got an all-star team. By the way, not a very big piece of news, but AJ Ramos, remember him? Former Marlins closer. He joined the Angels on a minor league deal. So that's the only bit of free agent news I've seen so far. We will get to your TGFBI draft, but I got to take care of a little bit more business here real quick. Hope you'll bear with me. Yeah. WinBet is now the exclusive sponsor for RotoWire's fantasy podcast. WinBet brings you all the latest action with a user-friendly interface, moneyline bets, boosted parlays, over-unders, round robins, live betting, and so much more at your fingertips. Want a break from sports betting? Head into WinBet's digital casino. Take a spin on roulette, double down on blackjack, slam the slots, or try your hand at baccarat. WinBet is currently available in 9 states: Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia, while rapidly expanding. At WinBet, the possibilities are limitless. Register for WinBet today. Make a qualifying deposit and wager to receive $200 in free bets. Promotion may vary by state. Download WinBet now. It's WYNNBET. WinBet, the exclusive partner for RotoWire's fantasy podcasts. Also experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is an exciting player prop fantasy contest. With Thrive Fantasy, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus on only the top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Sign up for Thrive Fantasy today and receive a free 6-month RotoWire subscription. Here's how you can claim your free RotoWire subscription. Number 1, visit rotowire.com/thrive. Number 2, deposit a minimum of $10 and receive a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Then finally, play in your first paid contest and receive that free 6-month RotoWire subscription. Finally, do you think your betting skills are good enough to win you tickets to the Final Four? It's time to put your money where your mouth is. Better Edge is giving away a trip for 2 to the Final Four in New Orleans. All you have to do is join their contest at betteredge.com/Final Four. Better Edge believes sports betting with no fees should be the norm, and odds are it's legal in your state. Check it out and enter their March Madness contest for a chance to win a trip to the Final Four. Head on over to betteredge.com/Final Four. That's BETTOR edge.com/Final Four. Terms and conditions apply. So Todd, over in TGFBI, I'm looking at your board. Seems very much like a Todd draft. You set the bar low once again with Scott and Joe Barlow. Andrew Kittredge as your kind of closer 3, and then Bailey Ober, and then Robert Suarez. I feel like you have Robert Suarez on every team. So
not if Tim McLeod's in the league.
Yeah, Tim was kind of pumping out. He's so good with those players that are coming over too. He has the pulse.
And this is this is a fab league. So if I overdid it, I overdid it. If Suarez doesn't close, I drop him and pick up somebody. So it's a little more aggressive in that nature in this format than in a draft and hold.
I love the Kittredge as an SP or as a closer 3. Like maybe he could pass in a deep league as a second closer, but I think he's an ideal closer 3 because he's going to get you some saves, wins, great ratios. Kind of an amazing case in that I think in 2020 he was headed for Tommy John.
Yeah,
he bypassed that and had the best year of his life.
Yeah, and waiting on starters a little bit. I don't have the most talented starting staff, so I'm going to need a third reliever on a lot of occasions.
I love seeing that in the reserves you grabbed Raver San Martin of the Reds. So I think maybe by this time tomorrow the Reds will have traded an arm or two, and the there'll be a clearer path for San Martin in their rotation.
I thought it was fairly clear.
He's already looking pretty much in the clear, but I think he'll be pretty.
Yeah, I don't see them going out. I don't see them going out and getting Zach Greinke or anything. So yeah, and then I've got Louis Castillo a little bit earlier. So I've got I'll be rooting for the Reds.
Reds.
I've been rooting for the Reds on occasion.
Nice, yeah. I like this team because it's a lot of players that we use the term, or I use the term, like blind spots, like Bailey Ober, Ty France. I think Jared Walsh kind of in that group too. I know, he had a great year. Gets the bat behind, Trout, Ohtani, and I guess Rendon too. But I'm skeptical. I like the player, but I need to see more before I'm convinced it wasn't a flash in the pan.
I am too, but I think I got him at enough of a discount. And I know it's my research that I'm citing that said if a player falls, there's usually a reason. But I except in teams that win. I say that not like my team to win, but that was the research showed is that players taken ahead of the ADP more often than not actually did well, and the so-called fallers did not do well. The bargains didn't do so well. First share, and kind of my blind spot too. But I went back and I didn't take too long to look because apparently I was the fastest drafter in this league. And there's someone from Razzball, I should look it up because I want to thank him, that makes a donation to charity.
For the fastest drafter.
In the name of the fastest drafter in every league. And he called, asked me on Twitter and made a nice donation to the Alzheimer's Association in my name. I thought that was kind of cool. I will recognize it in a moment. I just know he's from Razzball. But anyway, so I did, you don't feel pressure. I took a couple extra minutes to make sure that I wanted Walsh. That's all. And you can do that. I don't think anybody will get PO'd, if you do that. So B Dondante, Raz B Don. So B_DONDANTE. Thank you for making the donation on my behalf for the Alzheimer's Association. And all you're doing for the industry for doing that, I assume for the other leagues as well, because I don't think you're in my league. No, wait, maybe you are in the league. So maybe he just pledged it for the fastest drafter in this league. Even so, I don't, whatever.
Either way, that's a cool incentive.
Yeah, no, it's really nice.
Cool way to do it without being a jerk about it.
Yeah, we're doing the Nerf, the Earth League, whatever. I'm doing Nerf this and got a note from Chris Mayer, Baseball Pods guy, that this is the fee, this is the charity. So I throw a little an extra for the charity when you can. A lot of these, we're doing a lot of good work for charities for the things like that, and obviously the pods that Nick Pollock and Justin Mason do, Derek last year, DVR last year. A lot of good work being done in that regard. And I know you want to ask me about Josh Young, so I'll let you do it. Josh Young,
yeah. I was wondering, did you time out? Did you time out without a cue? What happened there?
No. And I've done this mistake before, and it's a rookie mistake. NFBC has got the ability to load up like your queue, a general queue. It doesn't, and then you just load that up, and then kind of like most sites, so you just pick from that queue. But they also let you load up round 28 queue, round 29 queue, round 30 queue. Because if you're at the wheel, you may want an outfielder than a pitcher, something like that.
Yeah.
So I was at the point where I could just list players. I didn't, reserved listing a bunch of players. So I did that, but I did it in round, whatever it was, 27 or 28. And so then I then hit auto too. So it picked my player. And then when it went to the next round, the round 29 was empty and there was nothing in the general queue. So then it auto drafted me Young. So the mistake was not putting two different queues or not putting it into the all queue. And it ended, listen, 30th round, who knows? It did cost me Brian De La Cruz. So it did cost me a player. All right, so I get rid of Young, I'd pick someone up. That's not the point. But I essentially have, and De La Cruz went kind of like 2 picks before me in the 30th round. He would have been my 29th round pick. So,
you got your first drop, but that is kind of crappy to lose out on a guy you actually do.
Yeah, I mean, could I have hit the stop button? Yeah, I could have, but it was my fault, and I didn't.
And I respect that you didn't because
it was my fault, and I know what I did. It took me a minute to realize it, but I knew full well. Once I realized it was my fault, then no. If it was someone else's fault and they stopped it, I'd be mad. So no, I can't. It's not right. And of course, I'm sweating De La Cruz and didn't make it back, but ended up getting Ryan Jeffers. I don't know. Louis Torrens is some competition there. A lot of people think Jeffers may actually outplay Garver. We'll have to find out. So I figured it was worth the shot. And the other kind of interesting pick that I think I made that, unlike me, was Jeremy Pena. I did not have shortstop backup yet, and I didn't like the shortstops that were 26th round. I mean, Miguel Rojas went in the 27th, and Didi Gregorius. He's in. So I said, why not? What if they don't bring Correa back? What if they don't sign Trevor Story? Give a shot. I don't usually do things like that, but it's 26th round of the TGFBI. Why not?
Yeah, we're aiming for the top prize, and
yeah.
I mean, you're not playing in this to just finish third in your league. You're gunning for that top prize.
How funny is it that we've each won, but James is ranked higher than us on the all-time list?
Yeah, what a beast! He's a great player. Yeah, we both won the overall, and yet he's better in the historical standing.
I love that.
Speaks to his consistency.
That's funny.
Awesome.
I love that. Yeah.
My reserve picks in TGFBR were Robert Suarez,
yeah.
Jorge Alcala, who's kind of like a Ryan Roof special, but
keep it in the family.
Yeah, could end up getting stretched out, which wouldn't be the worst thing either. Jorge Mateo, which was Ian Kahn special, kind of appealing to his case on Mateo with just opportunity and speed on his side.
Yeah.
Clint Frazier, Cody Morris and Mitch White, both James Anderson recommendations. Then Jan Gomes as my third catcher. I also have Danny Jansen. Maybe if Wilson Contreras gets traded, I end up leaning on Gomes quite a bit. Or when Elias Diaz is on the road, I can plug in Gomes.
Yeah, Gomes can still hit, right? He's just not a very good fielder.
Yeah, he can still hit a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff, man. Still waiting on more news from the baseball side, but hopefully that'll come, and hopefully it'll be a fun weekend with just the madness. And we'll try to stay up on top of it here. RotoWire notes for every player, and also the kind of corresponding notes, how other players are affected by the new additions as that happens. We got our beat writers at RotoWire starting back up, so the coverage has been light because there's been no baseball news, but we're going to have 200 plus notes a day very soon. That's kind of the norm during the season, 200 a day. Yeah,
well, I was reading through Twitter. A couple teams are talking to Pujols, including the Rockies, St. Louis, and Seattle.
Pujols' late career surge in Colorado, that could be fun.
Yeah, Buster Olney, this is 2 hours ago, said the market is zoom. You know what? I need to make sure it's really Buster Olney and not some, crypto guy. He's already heard about
Olney and not Buster Olney.
Yeah, he's already heard about 6 to 8 deals agreed to. Well, why don't we hear about them then? Maybe they're clear, physicals and all that kind of stuff. But I expect that we'll both be busy for doing different things. But yeah, we'll be very busy over the next week or two in a good way.
Absolutely. Well, that'll do it for us. If you want more of us, we'll be on tomorrow on MLB Network Radio. I thought we'd talk some more about some blind spot players. I mentioned
sure.
Ty France being one of them. There are plenty who I need to circle back on and give another look at. So I hope you'll join us there on MLB Network Radio. Otherwise, we'll catch you next week here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by WynnBET.